Futures trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Hello and welcome to the January 10th edition of Basis Loaded with Joe Schmit. Back after a brief hiatus, I am Joe Schmit, host of the show and current reigning Rice Dairy Fantasy Football champion. It was just a domination of a season. The snowpack is down, as you can see behind me, sub-zero temperatures on the way. What better way to celebrate than with the latest from the NDPSR report, starting with butter. This butter number coming in at 266.70. That is a +4 to the CME 1 week average of 262.25. So higher than normal basis in butter. We traded 11 loads at the CME last week. That volume did not show up here on the NDPSR. Volume on the NDPSR not even reaching 2 million pounds. So sharply lower than expected volume this week. And that's a trend of 5 weeks where we have failed to meet the butter volume threshold of 3.5 million pounds. Prices hanging in there as the manufacturer begrudgingly holds on to higher values. However, currently having a hard time moving product. +4 is higher than our expected basis. So a nice price, but lower than expected volume in butter. Up next is cheese. We'll start with block contract coming in at 153.24. This is a big price as well. That's 10.5 over the CME 1 week average of 142.80. So the block basis went from unchanged last week all the way out to 10.5 as the CME dropped precipitously and the NDPSR did not follow. We traded 4 loads at the CME last week at a lower level, so not a lot of weight at the CME to pull that NDPSR weighted average down. It's interesting here, that's a high price. As I mentioned, the manufacturer was able to call a premium to the CME. However, at that elevated level, unable to move even 11 million pounds. So falling 1.5 million pounds short of our expected 12.5 million. Similar to the butter contract, we have 5 weeks here on the NDPSR that the manufacturer has been unable to move the expected 12.5 million pounds. So that seems to be the trend so far in this report. Higher than expected basis, lower volume as end users turn their noses up at the elevated price level at the manufacturer. Up next, barrels, 148.07. That is also a higher than expected price. That is a 6.5 cent premium to the CME 2 week average of 141.46. Now that is the low 2 week at the CME as prices have trended higher as of late. So you would expect higher than normal basis, 6.5 qualifies, but all in all, relative to other products on this report, that basis is within range of our expected 4 to 6 cent positive basis. And even at that essentially high end of the expected range and basis at the low level at the CME, the manufacturer is still only able to move 11.6 million pounds. So almost 2 million pounds under our expected 13.5 million. And the barrel complex, in contrast to the blocks and butter, we have been moving a lot of volume as of late. You go back the last 5 weeks, we've had elevated volume levels. This week, however, didn't get there. Only 11.6 million pounds. So disappointing volume in the barrel on basis at the high end of the range. And the 26 loads that we traded at the CME last week might have been the culprit in the fact that we were able to drag that basis down. As long as we have that volume at the CME, seems like those basis levels are in check. If that volume at the CME goes away, then we see previously negotiated contracts on NDPSR or CME++ going off. However, no extra sales taking place. Up next is Whey, 42.64. So after 1 week of a downtick, the Whey complex snaps right back, keeping that uptrend moving. 42.64 is a plus 4 to the CME 1 week average of 38.35. That 38.35 is the low week at the CME. We traded 2 loads last week at the CME, so not a lot of weight changing hands at the CME, not a lot of weight changing hands here on the NDPSR, only 3.6 million pounds at that new high level. So the end user turning up their nose a little bit. However, those 3.6 million pounds, if you look back at the December 23rd NDPSR of 42.19, the manufacturer was able to call about a half-cent premium over prior week's NDPSR. So the manufacturer is still able to call a premium. However, the willing buy-side participants, those numbers are dwindling in Whey. And then lastly, non-fat, 121.44. That's plus 5.5 to the CME 1 week average of 116.05. Non-fat was the one complex that we did have some decent volume at the CME last week. 19 loads traded at the CME, even with all that weight changing hands at the CME, minus freight, still able to call a 5.5 premium, so you would have to call that a victory. However, at that elevated level, the manufacturer was only able to sell 10.2 million pounds. So this trend of higher than expected price and lower volume continues for most products on the NDPSR report, and certainly seems to be the theme for this week. So this is week 1 of the 4-week January pricing cycle. If you take the increases that we're seeing at the CME this week to finish off the January pricing, currently getting a January class 3 of 15.22 with a January class 4 of 19.23. If you carry current CME equivalents out through the February pricing cycle, currently getting February class 3 of 15.77, February class 4 19 even. We'll see what they have in store for us at the CME in the weeks to come. Until then, on behalf of Paige and the entire EverAg Insights team, thanks so much. Stay warm out there. Bye.